Well, good morning. Good morning. You are a good-looking bunch. Last week at this time, well, not quite at this time, about an hour later, actually, we were outside at Little Eden Camp and bringing the morning message outside. They had, because of COVID, they've had to do all their Sunday morning services outside because of the number of people you can have in the room. Here's how it works. You can have, for them as a camp, they can have 25% occupancy in the room. For a meal, where you're eating food and drinking water and all this, you can have 50% occupancy in the room. I don't get it, but that's the rules, and that's what they're following. So we meet outside. You can have as many as you want, pretty well outside, you know, physically distant. So it was good. It was a good week. They had all but 1 week was outside this year. So praise the Lord for that. God was gracious to them, giving them the time to be outside. And it rained last Sunday morning. We're just kind of looking at it going, oh, but it was good. And so it's great to be back. It's great to see your smiling faces. I mean, some of it I can't see, but that's okay. That's one of the hard things is, you know, has anybody had trouble with that? Yeah, and at camp, there was a camp on the last night coming through they didn't have buffet, they had people serving you know, your food in cafeteria style. And so I'm there because I volunteered, well, Kathy volunteered me to make sure the tables were clean and stuff, you know, after people leave tables and go and wipe them all down and all that. And so I was just standing, minding my own business, watching tables, and there was a couple coming through, and I thought, wow, look, they look familiar. I know that haircut. That's what, I can do that, okay? But she doesn't look quite right, but yeah, you know, boy, I wanted to go say something, but they're in masks, and he actually had this thing that kind of went down, and boy, you know, and so I waited, I kind of hid outside waiting till they sit down, because I didn't want to go up and say, hi, how you doing? And they pull their mask down and it's not them. You know, that would just be embarrassing. And so that's kind of like a little kid grabbing the wrong hand. You think it's mom and dad. And so they went outside and I saw them and I snuck up behind them and said, look who you find around here. It was Phil and Carolyn Bontrager, pastors at Grand Marais Mennonite Church. And so they just going down and thought we'd stop at Little Eden for the night and just see what the camp looks like and all that. So that was kind of fun. But the masks really can throw us off, and it was amazing how many people were wearing masks, and you had to be masked inside the common areas down there. So we worked at that, and I did find out something about masks that's not very nice. A sneeze. Man, you want to have another one handy. just how that is. A sneeze is not good. You know? Anyway, so this morning we're back at it, and we're going to go. This is the last of the message, of individual message I'm doing on the Ten Commandments. This is Commandment Number 10. Next Sunday we're going to kind of review the whole thing, refreshing your mind a little bit. And so this is it for number 10. And as we've been doing in the past weeks, I want us to read these commandments together. I don't, you know, if we can do that. So let's read this together, please, everybody. And God spoke all these words, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the fathers to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your manservant or maidservant, nor your animals, nor the alien within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his manservant, or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. There are the commandments. There they are. Today, of course, you shall not covet. And by the way, the CDC has gone to rewrite this specific commandment now. I don't know, they're rewriting a lot of things nowadays. Yeah, they're writing it to, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. Anyway. Okay, haven't changed much, but anyway, so he goes away and he comes back, not much change going on. Anyway, seriously, we're looking at these commandments, and as we looked at this 10th commandment, as I'm looking over, I found out that one characteristic about it that's a bit different from the other commandments is that it's moved away from action, from doing, commandments that make you do, to the realm of attitude, to the realm of the mind. This has to do with what you think, how you're thinking, what's going through your head. 1 through 9 have to do with what you say or do, but number 10 has to do with what you think. Why? Well, here's the reason why I believe. If you don't keep this commandment, if you covet other things, you'll start breaking one or maybe even all of the other commandments. Most of us don't think of ourselves as people who covet. We think, I'm not a person that covers this that covets this that person has. I don't covet this, or covet that. That's not my sin. That's not what I do. I may have to deal with this and that, but I'm not a covetous person. To that, I always say, like the other commandments, really? Because I think we all do. At some degree, some level, I think we all have a struggle with covetousness. Big word. Of all the commandments listed, this is probably the one that's most often broken, that will cause you to break other 9. Abraham Lincoln was once seen walking with his 2 sons, and both boys were crying. A man was passing by, and he asked the president, he said, "What's wrong with his boys?" "What's wrong with the boys?" "Exactly, what's wrong with the whole world?" said Lincoln. "I have 3 walnuts, and each boy wants 2. Back then, it was as simple as walnuts. Today, it's a lot different than that. But it's the same way. Yeah, I want more. I want more. There are many people who are honest will have to admit that they do have a covetous heart to some degree. We can't read the Bible, in fact, without finding time after time when men wanted something that wasn't theirs. I want this. It's not mine. And they start coveting, and it gets them into trouble. Look at in the Garden of Eden. Eve coveted the forbidden fruit. What happens? It brings sin and death into the world. You look at Joshua, in Joshua 7:19, at Ai, Achan coveted some gold and silver and expensive garments, and it brought death to the nation, and defeat to the nation, and death to himself and his family. In 1 Kings, Ahab coveted Naboth's vineyard and committed murder in his attempt to grab what belonged to somebody else. David, well, what do you need to say about David? David coveted Bathsheba, and look what it got him. It brought the sword of God into his household. He lost his firstborn son to Bathsheba, and many other things that happened to him. Coveting has been a problem as long as man has been in this world. Even in these last days, men and women still want what isn't theirs. Take a look at this. Paul, the Apostle Paul, giving instructions to Timothy, said, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men and women and people shall be lovers of their own selves." Think about this now, the last days. "Covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, and it goes on. So I want to look a little bit closer. So if you got your notes, get your notes out, because here we go. We're going to look closer at this commandment and consider this sin that no one wants to admit. First of all, the first thing covetousness does, it infects all of life. Literally, it has an infection that goes into other realms of your life, and I would say all of your life. It may hit this part harder, but it probably will go and ripple out to this part. And how many know that we do things and it has ripple effects into other areas of life? It touches everything. It just keeps touching. So it infects all of life. Number one, the first thing it does, it makes us greedy for gain. Greedy for gain. When we have a covetous heart, we're never satisfied with what we got. It's never good enough. There's always this powerful urge to want more, to gain more. The word covet literally means this: to desire what belongs to another inordinately or culpably. The king, i.e. the king's brother, coveted the throne. You want what belongs to somebody else. When we're guilty of covetousness, we're guilty of having a heart for other things of this earth, things that we have, things somebody else has, instead of the Lord. When we have a heart for the Lord, our heart doesn't go to covetousness. We find that, as Joe May said, we find that we're satisfied in God. He is all sufficient in us. All that we have. He is our sufficiency. We don't need more. He is more than enough, as the song says, right? But too often, when we take our hearts and take our eyes off God, we go into other things. People, things, whatever. This commandment, it's not just things, but people. Neighbor's wife, neighbor's manservant, female servant, animals. It can be anything. And we can get that way. We can get that way. We always think the grass is a little greener on the other side of the fence, don't we? That's because you can't see the crabgrass from here. It's always greener until you get over there. As Jimmy Evans said in one of his Marriage on the Rock videos, grass is always greener on the other side of the fence because you can't see the poop from here. There's a lot of truth to that. But if I can get, we had this thing, if I can get this thing, or if I can just have that job, or have a little bit more money in the bank, or then I'll be happy. How many know that if I can just get more, and I'll be happy? It doesn't happen. There's always something else beyond that happiness. You work toward this, you work toward that. I'll be happy, I'll be content. I remember one time working for saving my cans and walking along the roads, picking up cans, just to do it, and tip money from the shop and all that, and I was going to buy a new bow. A new Matthews bow. And Matthews bows aren't cheap. Just off the shelf right away, we're talking $1,000, but I saved my money. And I like doing it that way because I take money, I'm spending money that doesn't take food off the table, so to speak, and I'm spending money that, it's guilt-free. How many, ever guilt-free spending, Now, Kathy would have said, yeah, go ahead and do it, but I just like doing it that way, okay? I'm odd. So I save the money, and I'm looking at bows, and all the time I'm saving, I'm just looking at these things. Oh, man, that's nice. I think Zeke got a new bow, and it's like, ooh, that's a nice bow. And I bet I could be a real good hunter then, I just get to playing these games. So I go in the store, I got the money in hand, cash, I'm going to lay out the cash, go to buy the bow, I'm looking at them, picked one out, I can't buy it. Anybody ever do that? I can't pull the trigger because, man, I don't want to spend money. That's stupid, But all this time I spent coveting a new bow. I just wanted it. And it doesn't help that my friends have something like that. But I thought, well, that's cool. That's great, That's what we do. We do things like that. The more we have, the more it seems that we want. Humans by nature we're just greedy. We're self-centered, always trying to grab more and get for more. You may say, no, Tim, I don't agree with that. Look at little kids. You look at little 2-year-olds on the floor playing with their little toys and stuff like that, and guess what? If little Billy over here has got a little truck, And Jeffy over here doesn't have that truck. Jeffy wants that truck, even though Jeffy's got all the other toys. You know, little kids, by nature, they want what somebody else has. It's not that they want to play with that. They just want it. You've got it. I want it. That's what covetousness is. That's what it does. The second thing, it makes us want to, as I said, grab another's wealth. According to this verse, a covetous heart may cause you to go after things that are not yours and yet to go after. A Jewish rabbi once said that this verse meant that we shouldn't covet, let me put that on the screen. We shouldn't covet anything that belongs to someone else. Having desires for something is okay, just not someone else's. The impulse for wanting is a necessary part of being a human being. Without it, we would be inert, unacting, and unmotivated. In other words, you might be a teenager, but no. Anyway, that's not true of all teenagers. I mean, there's some teenagers that are, anyway. But there's nothing wrong with wanting something better, something nicer house, a newer car, or something better. It's against the law of God to want it if it belongs to somebody else and you want that one. That's what's wrong, going after that one. Not one like it, not a similar one, but that one is what's wrong. Going even further, it's wrong to want anything so badly that you're consumed by it. It just takes up your time, takes up your mental space, and you'll go to any means to get it. That's why people are stealing, and that's why they're doing all sorts of things. Things that you want something, whether it belongs to someone else or not. We just got to get this. It's consuming me. And people, that is just not a place to go. When we get to this point, we're guilty of sinning against God. And when we have a covetous heart, then we stop trusting the Lord to meet our needs. And instead, we're looking to acquire things. This tambourine can meet my needs. Oh, it's a beautiful tambourine. If I could just have another like it, I could have my needs really met. No, that's a bunch of baloney. $10 pay raise. Oh, that'll be great. You'll spend just as much percentage-wise. It's a proven fact. People get more money if you're in debt to here. Here's where your pay is, but your debt is here. Your pay goes up. Guess what? Oh, I got more. I can borrow more. I can do more. People just do that. It's not good. So covetousness is a disease. Disease is all of life. Second is covetousness or disregards. Let me back up. Disregards God's law. Disregards God's laws. Covetousness may be the greatest sin that's in this list, believe it or not. If you think about it and look at it, and hopefully I can make a case for it. In fact, let's look at the first 9 commandments and see how covetousness can break those commandments. Number 1, you shall have no other gods before me. You ever place your money and possessions ahead of God? We do that sometimes. Next one, you shall not make for yourself an idol in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. We see people bowing at the altar of materialism and greed while refusing to bow at the altar of God. You see people doing that all the time. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. People have blasphemed the Lord's name in their efforts to get stuff. I mean, you don't have to say it. It's not the word you say to blaspheme. You think about it. A life that is inconsistent with the clear teachings of the Bible is blasphemy. If you're not living out what the Bible says how to live, we're blaspheming, aren't we? That's what it is. Next one. How about this? Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. People have dishonored the Lord's day in an effort to make more money. And what I mean by that is there are people, we've talked about this, who need to work on a Sunday, a Sabbath day. Actually, a Sabbath day, a seventh day. They need to work because I want doctors to work. I want the ambulance driver to work on a Sabbath day. There are some people that need to work in that, and I get that. But there are people, many people, who say, you know what, I'm going to grab as much overtime as I can because I want that new boat. My neighbor's got a new boat. I want a new boat. I want that same boat. I'm going to grab as much overtime as I can. And what are we doing? We're not keeping the Lord's day. We're not putting Him first. How about this one? Honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Many elderly parents are treated poorly because it's too much of a financial burden on the kids. What if the tables were turned or the kids recognized how much the parents have sacrificed for them when they were young and did? You know, they neglected parents. What if mom and dad would have done the same thing to them when they were little? Sad thing is, those things do happen. They do happen. How about this? You shall not murder. Pretty simple. A lot of people are dead today because somebody wanted what belonged to another. Look at the rioting. How many people have died in the riots because somebody wanted what's in your house, what's in your store, what's in there and there, you know? That's what's going on. How about this one? You shall not commit adultery. How many marriages are in shambles because people being so caught up in work, in earning their salt, that they have neglected their sugar? If you know what I mean. How about this one? You shall not steal. It goes without saying that stealing is a result of a covetous spirit that's out of control. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. People will lie about another person, will spread gossip about another person, spread rumors about another person because they're envious. You ever notice people that will lie about or gossip about somebody else because they're envious, and so they want to bring them down in order to elevate themselves, and they covet that position that that person has, but I can't attain to that position, I can't get that position, so we're going to knock their position down so I can get to that position, so I can look better. It seems plain to me that a covetous spirit is wicked and it's a sinful spirit before the Lord. Okay, third. So we have covetousness, diseases all of life, disregards God's law, and it denies God. Number one is it shows us a lack of faith. When we're constantly going after what we don't have but what we want, we're simply saying that, God, you're not taking care of me. God, I can't trust you. You're not as sufficient as you think you are, God, because life isn't the way I want it to be. Has God ever guaranteed any of us he'd give us what we want? Not that I read in the scriptures. I don't see it that way. He has promised in his word that he'll give us those things that we need. Philippians 4 tells us this. And my God will do what? Supply all of your needs according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. When I learned a long time ago that God is meeting my needs and that's all I need, and I don't have to worry about my wants anymore. Do I have wants? Absolutely. Do I see things? No, that looks pretty nice. Absolutely. I'd be standing here lying to you if I'd say that, well, you know, there's a guitar that I really want. I think I've told this before. But it's not going to happen, I'll tell you what. You know, at $9,000, Mrs. Miller is going to say, nah, I don't think so. In fact, Mrs. Miller has already said, nah, I don't think so, Tim. But do I still want it? Yeah, you know, and I've even looked for it to try and play for it because I thought, well, if I can play it, I can talk smooth. Honey. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So, you know, fortunately, the blessing of all that is, I know it's not going to happen, so we just kind of lay that off the table, and it's still there. So, but we do that, and we say, God, I need this. God, I need a $9,000 guitar to praise you on Sunday morning. And God's going, make a joyful noise, Tim. I mean, do you see how dumb some of that stuff sounds? Amen. It just sounds really dumb when we think about it. God's plan for us when it comes to obtaining things is found in Matthew 6. And you can go there. I'm not going to go there right now. Matthew 6 is where God, 25, Jesus says, you know, don't worry about what you're going to wear. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about this. Look at the sparrows and the lilies of the field. Look at these, and God has clothed those. Doesn't he love you more than he loves those, you know? And at the end of all that, he said, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. And so he tells us how to do it. And when we forget that he is the provider, and we start to think that getting relies on me, it's all up to me because God's not going to do it, then we've gone from faith into covetousness, and we're guilty of that sin. When we allow a covetous heart to dominate our lives, we become slave to the things we want. How many of you have gotten things and think, man, now I got to maintain it. Now I got to take care of this. Now I got to... And the next thing you know, you can't serve the Lord because you got to change the oil in that thing. You got to maintain this. You got to do that, and you're so busy doing all this other stuff. The time for God kind of goes in the back seat. Then we put God in second place. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with possessing things. That's not the point. But we fall into sin when those things start to possess us. When we allow things to supersede God in our lives, then we're guilty of idolatry. And covetousness is what takes us there. This doesn't mean we shouldn't look for things that we can find enjoyment with in life. That'd be okay. The scriptures don't say that the profit motive is wrong in itself. Living only for a bigger and better salary or a bigger and better home, a car, vacation, doesn't satisfy the deep needs of our hearts. It doesn't. It doesn't. It may seem like happiness and satisfaction was going to increase as we gain more and more possessions, but trust me, it doesn't work that way. You just got more junk at the end of it all. And at the end of it all, your kids are going to have to deal with it. So it might be your get-even strategy. I don't know. When we're guilty of possessing a covetous heart, we can be sure that the level of our devotion to Jesus is going to suffer. When it comes to possessing things, many of us are like a maid of a wealthy man. One day as he was coming down the stairs, he overheard the maid saying to herself, "Oh, if I just had $5, then I'd be so content." Wondering what would happen, he pulls a $5 from his wallet and he gives it to her. And as he's walking away, she stammered and thanked the man. And as he's walking away, she turns into another room, and he overhears her saying, "Why didn't I ask for $10? We laugh at that, but it's true. Our problem isn't that we have too little. Our problem is that we have too much. Our problem is, it's not a problem having too much. Our problem is that we want more than we need. Some people are able to handle gain and handle good things and handle a lot. Other people aren't. And the Greek philosopher Epicurus said this: "If you want to make a man happy, add not to his possessions, but take away from his desires." Isn't that true? Take away from the desires. I have since learned many times over, wanting things is okay, but not letting them control you. When you're like me and you want something that's really out of your realm of possibility, like a $9,000 guitar, and that's just the starting price, by the way. Want something like that, it's out of reach. It's out of the realm of possibility, so I just have kicks with it because it's not a big deal. So we need to search our heart. What motivates us? Do we find ourselves always talking about money? And yes, there are people who are gifted in finance, and that's the passion they have, and they seem to talk about that. But other people always needing more. Oh, if I just had more. Oh, I want more. Always feeling jealous because someone else has something we think we need. Are we guilty of going after the things instead of the Lord? Do you need to confess to the Lord that you're guilty of the sin that nobody's going to admit to you? It's not my sin. I don't do that. If you have a covetous heart, it's going to be your downfall unless you always make it right with God. That's the great thing about all these things, isn't it? That, we can always go to God and say, "God, I'm sorry. Help me grow in this area. God, my attitude, I want these things. I find myself coveting. I just taking up my time, taking up my mental space. God, help me." And God says, "Great. We got a starting point. Let's go after this." My God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and glory. Allow God to help you. Allow him to get big in your vision. Because when God gets big into our vision, other things shrink. And they get back to where they need to be. That's what we've got to do. Be honest with Jesus when it comes to this whole issue of coveting or any of the commandments.